Welcome in Sideline Sports Show here on this lovely Friday Eve, as Tim would love to call it. Tim, how are you doing, my friend?
That's exactly right, Ben. Because it's right around the corner. It's the best time of the week. I mean, just because for me, where from Friday at noon to whenever, because I get it's the longest day of the week for me. Most of the week, Sunday through Thursday, I have to go to bed super early. This time I get to wake up really really late. So and just mess up my whole sleep schedule, and I'll be wrecked on Sunday night. Life while you're still young, am I right?
That's
So
right. That's right.
it's kind of one of those things, and I found out, I'm doing that. But about an hour away from me here. I think it's because I think it's about an hour drive from my house to your house, roughly. But got some exciting stuff around the corner as well. So, how about you?
Man, I'm telling you, we are not even weeks away, Tim, from high school football. And I could not be more excited for some high school football under the lights. I mean, I'm telling you, my wife the other day, like, she changed her phone screen to like pumpkins, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so ready for fall." And I'm like, "It's still like July the 15th. Like, what are we doing?" Like, she's so ready for fall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so ready for Friday night under the lights. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's going to be a phenomenal year for a lot of great football teams up in your area and down in mine. So I'm just excited for some high school football, and high school softball actually kicks off next week for us down here. So a lot of action going on down here in the sports world. So it's going to be a really interesting
Really?
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Us up here, that's definitely spring sports. So I didn't know that. That's surprising to
Well,
hear,
so
actually.
down here in Georgia, which I say down here, and it's like an hour and a half away. But down here in Georgia, we have fast pitch in the fall, and then we have slow pitch in the spring. So it's like there's two different levels of competition that we have. So I mean, it'll be interesting for our fast pitch girls. They got a lot of new teams that they got to play out of region and in region play. So it's gonna be interesting. So, but hopefully the season will go well for them. But Tim, before we kick off into our continuous theme here of breaking down each and every single conference, let's talk a little bit about some MLB trade action, because I have a proposal for you. But before we even get to that, I want to ask you about the Benintendi trade, because he decides to go from Kansas City Royals to the Yankees, who is actually a former Boston Red Sox. How do you think? I mean, the Braves, obviously, they kind of feel a little upset because I think that was one of their main targets in the trade deadline. Now he's not available, but how bad do you think the Boston Red Sox fans feel?
Yeah, it's almost like one of those Jacoby Ellsbury type deals. But the thing is, difference being Ellsbury willingly went there. Andrew Benintendi he got traded there, so it's a little different. We can't really catch a break because the Red Sox aren't exactly playing great baseball right now. I mean, in that series against the Blue Jays, got swept, including that horrible display where they allowed 28. Not really a good time for them right now. Maybe they'll play better baseball. Maybe they'll have an acquisition. Maybe they'll be sellers. Maybe will they ship JD Martinez? What do they do? They've got Trevor Story in there for the long haul, so I don't see him going any. Interesting to see what they do. But yeah, you mentioned it definitely kind of hurts to see one of your former players, especially in that Yankees hate one another. Everyone knows that. That's common knowledge. And so it's, like I said, Ellsbury's done it. Johnny Damon, who people remember the 2000 ALCS, they know who Johnny Damon is. He actually went to the Yankees. So it's definitely happened before. So I think that they're probably used to it by now. I don't think it was quite Indy when he left and kind of the mark he left in Boston compared to those other two guys. Quite kind of the same feel or the same outrage as that you might expect when one of the really like an everyday player goes from like Red Sox to the Yankees. So I don't think it's quite, definitely probably like, dang, yeah, yeah. Well, we would have loved to have given you Joey Gallo. So
Yeah. I think that was an interesting thing. Like, they didn't even trade Joey Gallo over to the Kansas City Royals. I guess because other teams are interested in him. So we'll see where Gallo ends up because the outfield is
So,
stagnant.
he's very low on the wish list for a lot of teams just because of how much people thought he'd do well there with the short porch, but I think sometimes people forget how crazy New York media is, and the fans are. They're not nice. Well behaved everywhere, but in New York, they're especially not performing. And they could definitely, they'll let you have it. I mean, they're just street being an average guy because you will get hounded. It's just that way. The media is in your face every night. When you're down in Arlington, Texas, like Gallo was to start his career, it's a lot. Again, the team that he was on a little bit of a rebuild. They weren't a playoff caliber team. A market as New York was or is. So it's definitely for him. He needs been linking him to Atlanta. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, we need someone kind of would like to see a righty kind of replace the ball. But then again, the left-handed bats because other than Rosario, Michael Harris, I don't think you really have that much on the left-hand side. So maybe getting another power left-handed bat to even more pearls into the chop house, But maybe they go that way. Maybe they go somewhere. But people on Twitter have kind of talked about maybe trying to see if they can package a deal for Jorge Soler, a 2-year deal with Miami. So if you get him this time, you'd have him for next year as well. So that's what the Braves might do. He's definitely, and by he, I mean, I'm talking about definitely shopping around. He knows he needs to go up and give this team a little boost because they're playing a little flat right now. So some of the other guys, I mean, Riley's hotter. I mean, than what they use, hotter than a dancing bobcat right now. He's played himself in the MVP conversation, and he should say it. But the Braves are playing solid right now, so I wouldn't be shocked to see them make it. Ian Anderson doesn't progress and get better, and he keeps pitching like he did his last time out against the Angels. I think it was 7 earned runs total, and you're definitely going to need to go out and get another arm.
Yeah. So, and it's crazy that you mentioned the Braves because I have one trade proposal that I don't think anybody's ever thought about, but I think it's because it may be a little overstretched. Like you mentioned, Ian Anderson has just not been the same Ian Anderson he has been before. Now, granted, during the postseason, he is 8-0. I mean, postseason Ian Anderson, I guess it's like a different breed. But this season, we have not really seen the progressions. Then again, he is only 24.
Yeah.
I think the Braves are not going to say, hey, let's trade him off. I think he's young. He just probably needs to go down, but you can't bring another guy up right now who's as talented as all these other pitchers that we have right now. So you look, Kyler Mueller is now out for the year with the broken hand. I don't know if you saw that, but he broke his hand down at AAA. Yeah, so he broke his hand. He's down for the year out in AAA. And then Huascar Ynoa has not been really the same this year. A lot of AAA arms have just not been there for the Braves. Luckily, they will get Kirby Yates at least by the end of, let's say, this month. Beginning of August, because it is almost the end of the month. Kirby Yates has been doing his rehab process. He went through AA. Now he's with AAA Gwinnett, so it'll be interesting. But here's the proposal I think no one is going to ask, but I think it is worth asking. You ready, Tim?
Give it to me.
If you are the Cubs and you get a call from the Atlanta Braves, and the Atlanta Braves say, hey, we want Wilson Contreras, but also we want Ian Happ, we will trade you Travis d'Arnaud and 3 prospects. Would you take the deal, yes or no?
I like d'Arnaud, man. I mean, I know he's been down for the count a little bit himself here lately, but I still like him. I think he's still a very valuable part of the team. I know it'd be cool because you have the Contreras brothers together. That, like I said, that would be Ian Happ. I think you could definitely work in there. I think that he would give you something. So now I guess it would depend on the 3 prospects that you're talking about.
Yeah.
mean, our system, as we know, it was one of the best just a couple years ago. But with some of the guys coming up in the trade to get other major league talent, we've kind of decimated that system a little. Like, what kind of 3 prospects? That would kind of be what would make my decision for me, because if it's a certain amount of prospects that are like, okay, maybe one of those 3 the majors, the other 2 we don't, then I'd be fine with that. I'd be okay with that. I would actually I think Contreras would be a big help, but I just think more so for the fact for Ian Happ, it just bad in the lineup. I think that the Braves need at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I don't think anybody's going to talk about it, but I do think it would be a valuable trade, and I understand that. Yes, that's the reason why I compared the two of Wilson Contreras and Travis d'Arnaud. You'd have to have that catcher in there at some point because you don't want to get rid of William Contreras after the incredible year he's had so far. I mean, even made the All-Star team as a DH. But, I mean, his brother, Wilson Contreras, is an all-star catcher. Then you have Travis d'Arnaud, who's an all-star catcher. So I feel like you could probably just swap those just player for player. But then when it comes to Ian Happ, I don't know if you're going to be able to just say, hey, let's go out and just swap a major league player for Ian Happ. I don't think the Braves have that. And unfortunately, it's like you said, I don't know if the Braves honestly have enough prospects to where they can go, yeah, we can trade this prospect off for so-and-so. I don't think they have that. I think they're going to have to go out and say, hey, we're going to have to find somebody like last year where we got a Eddie Rosario for Pablo Sandoval, but you could have done cash considerations. I think you're going to have to go out there if you're the Braves and find somebody that you can get for cash considerations instead of having a player swap because you've basically killed the depth of this farm system by getting Matt Olson, which was a good addition to the team. I'm not going to say he wasn't. And it was a need for the team as well. But then you had to go out and get that 35th pick, and you spent 3 prospects going to get that 35th pick. So now you're kind of down 6 prospects already. How are you going to recover those 6 top prospects and replace these guys? So it's going to be interesting to see how the Braves do this at the trade deadline because who knows? I mean, they could go out and, just send more prospects other places to get Ian Happ or, I've heard Charlie Blackmon could be a consideration for the Braves. I've heard all kinds of rumors, but we'll see what the Braves do in this situation. And it's going to be interesting to watch and see how they kind of handle this next step because I think the end of the trade deadline is this week. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Braves do and what all these other teams do, Tim. All right, before we start diving into the Big Ten, let's talk about one more thing. There's been a rumor, and this is not true, Tim, but it's a rumor that Kevin Durant, is maybe going to the Boston Celtics in a trade that includes Jaylen Brown. And as you can tell, Jaylen Brown is not a huge fan of this. So what's your thoughts on this? Do you think it works?
I don't know. Yeah, Kevin Durant is a star player, and obviously he's one of the best players of this generation. For a while, though, he was definitely creeping up on LeBron for that title. So he's definitely still getting older, I mean, you still see the scoring ability there. I mean, of course, he'd give you a couple more years, he could potentially, or at least get you to playoff. But the thing is, I mean, you could already get that with Jaylen. I'm just like, why would you want to give up a guy that's younger and you're going to give up a decent amount of guys like draft picks? And it's just, I'm like, would it really be worth it? I think so. Because, again, Kevin Durant, the name alone says, but I mean, he's going to come up. And this team went to the finals already without him. They went to the finals without him already. So they don't necessarily need him. I mean, get over the hump, possibly. But I think that they could get basically what they're going to get years. Anyway, right now it's just with Jaylen Brown and company. So.
All right. So now that we've said that, there's 2 players on that team. I want you to kind of tell me where you think they will end up going. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, where do you see both of them ending up before the season starts? Do they stay on the Nets, or do they kind of venture off and go two different directions?
Irving goes to the Lakers, goes out west, but part of me is just like, I don't know if the Lakers are going to be able to offer interesting for that. Kevin Durant, bro. I mean, yeah, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I just have no clue. I have no clue. I mean, no one knows what Mr. Easy Money Sniper is going to do. Okay, not him going to the Warriors. Okay, yeah, right, sure thing. And then he goes there, and you're like, whoa, what the heck? He actually went there.
Yeah.
Going to do, and power to him, but like at the same time, it's just like you're asking me to predict him. I wish I could tell you where I think he's going to go, but I have no idea. I have honestly went back to the Warriors. I don't think he will. I'm not saying he will, but again, anything he does.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would love to see him go back to Oklahoma City just to kind of be the hero of that city one more time. And I think a lot of people would love Kyrie Irving to go to the Lakers and rejoin LeBron. So I think that would be really interesting for the whole entire league to see. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what all plays out with the MLB trade deadline and also the NBA trades as well during the summer. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will start breaking down the Big Ten Conference. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome in Sideline Sports Show as we are about to kick off the breaking down of the Big Ten Conference. But before we do, make sure to go visit our friends at section103.com. You can use your 10% off code Sideline at checkout at Sideline, or using your code Sideline at checkout. So make sure to go check them out, section103.com. All right, here we go. Tim, let's start with the East Division. Normally it's like the eastern side of the conference or like the western side. This is called the East in the, I want to say the West Division. Like it just throws me off because normally it's just one side is east west, but no, we got the Eastern Division. So we'll see how this. But I will tell you right now, before we even kick off this, let's start from the bottom, go up. But I will say this is probably the hardest side I had to do. I think the west side is a lot easier because it's not as much talent. But the East is just loaded with talent.
You can kind of see teams kind of that are at the bottom, especially there's one team at the bottom line that can make a significant jump. And then there's also another team that's actually tied at the very, very bottom, was literally in the conference title. So, again,
exactly.
The year before. And then last year, they got to see. So, as we kick things off. But as you said, first we'll go east. You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Let's see.
You'll go first? Okay.
I got to find. Oh, yeah. All right, here we go. My bottom, which would be number 7 in the Eastern Division, I have Rutgers. Look, here's the thing. What other than their uniforms, I don't know if anything else is good within the Rutgers football program. I mean, Rutgers uniforms used to be really good, especially if you played NCAA 14. I mean, their uniforms were absolutely incredible. But since then, I mean, what has gone good for this Rutgers football team? I mean, absolutely nothing. I mean, they struggled to generate big plays. They averaged like 13 points a game on offense, and they allowed 25 points a game on defense. So, I mean, really, they're just going to have to really stop allowing big plays and start creating big plays on offense. So, I think if they can't create those big plays on offense and they can't stop it, it's just going to be really hard for them to even compete in a really, really tough division. So, I have to put them at 7.
They finished second to last, which Indiana, who had a who had a really good 2020, showed some promise. I believe they lost their starting quarterback last year to a season-long injury, so that kind of put them behind the 8 ball early on. 0-9 win conference, which was shocking to say the least. 2-10, but I think they're going to have a little bit better year. I think they're going to bounce up. I'm going to put them at 6, and I just say he's going to fall back just a little bit, and I think they're going to be at the bottom spot. So at number 7, I got Rutgers, and I'll just go.
And then you said you had who at 6? Go ahead and do your 6 while you're at it.
Yeah, number 6, I have Indiana. I think they'll be better this year.
Yeah, and that was my number 6 too. I think they're going to be a lot better. I don't know if Penix Jr., their quarterback who you mentioned, I don't know if he's coming back. It does not mention. I've looked. I can't find it. But here's the thing. After that COVID year in 2020, in 2019, they went 14-7 combined in those 2 years, and we all thought Indiana's on the uprise. I think last year I had them like finishing 4th in the division, which was actually really good. But I mean, that was so disappointing when they finished 2-10 last year. It didn't have a single conference win last year, as they went 0-9 in Big Ten games. I mean, you've got to improve that. And they even allowed 35 points a game against Big 10 opponents, excuse me. And I think that right there just has to improve majorly. And there's so many teams in front of them that are just way too competitive and way too better of a team than Indiana. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to put them at 6. And I will just go ahead and do my 5 as well. I got Maryland. Look, here's the thing. Tagovailoa, I think that's how you say his name. I could be butchering it, and I'm sorry if I butchered it. But he's an incredible quarterback. But the problem for Maryland is that, like, they have not really had consistency on offense. I mean, you found a game that they were really good, like the West Virginia game. I thought their offense was very, very good in that game against West Virginia at home last year. And then after that, it just kind of like derailed and just went sideways. And then their defense wasn't that great. I mean, it's going to have to improve a little bit to compete with all these other schools that they play. But they've got to improve majorly at that quarterback position. He's got to be consistent. I know that he had 26 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, and that's about average. I mean, it really is. But you have to get all these other guys to help around him. And the good thing is all 5 offensive line returning. This is going to be a little bit more of a veteran group. This team could even finish like 3rd. I'm not willing to put them in the top 2 because of how competitive this division is, like I've said. So I'm going to have to put them at 5.
At number 5, I actually think Maryland's actually going to take a step up, and I think this other team about 1 step back, and it's going to be Penn State. I don't have much faith in them. I believe it just seems to be a struggle. I could be wrong. I'm just not really buying them again. They seem to digress. 4-5 in the conference, barely made it over the 500 mark. 7-6. Not a huge fan. James Franklin, he did a good job when he first got to Happy Valley, but just the team wasn't great last year. They have a quarterback, Sean Clifford. I don't even know if he's coming back this year. It feels like he's been there for so long. High expectations for him. He just never meets them. So I'm not really riding them. So I think I should over them and finish 4th in the division. And I think Penn State's going to finish 5th.
All right. And then at my 4, I think this is going to be a consistent theme here. I have Penn State. And I think the reason why I can put them a little bit higher is I think Manny Diaz coming to Penn State as a defensive coordinator with Sean Clifford as the quarterback now. He will return this year. I think that defense is going to look a little bit better. I mean, I think Miami's defense down in South Florida was really good with Manny Diaz. That offense just was never going to get clicking. And I think he faced a lot of tough teams as well, like Clemson. He faced a couple times. He faced Virginia Tech a couple times. He faced a really good Virginia team and North Carolina offense that was always going really well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Manny Diaz does as the defensive coordinator. But looking at their offense and Sean Clifford, I think he will improve a little bit. I just don't know if the weapons around him will be enough to put them over these three teams I have in front of them. So I'm going to have to put them at my 4.
Into the top 3 now, Ben. I think this team right here made it to the bit ago and won it all. Went to the Orange Bowl. Got selected Michigan. They usually, in their years in which they go to Ohio State, they're just again very very similar team this year. I think, but I think they're going to lose a couple more. I think there's a chance to lose to Michigan State because I'm a big fan of Mel Tucker. I think Tucker they keep saying, and so I think they're going to have a big year, and I just think they're going to be able to beat Ohio State. In fact, they're getting Michigan home this year. I think that's going to be big for them as well, and that Michigan's going to at least end the season with 2 losses in conference.
All right, so you got Michigan at 3, right? Just making sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, sweet. All right, my number 3, I love this team, and I love what they've been able to do. I mean, look, in the 2020 campaign, they went 2-5, but after that, they went 11-2 last year, even faced Pitt in the Chick-fil-A Bowl, but I don't see them beating Michigan or Ohio State because they have those road trips to Michigan and even Penn State, and that's not going to be 2 easy games for them. So I have to put Michigan at my number 3. Here's the thing. I think it's going to be very interesting for them to replace the running back Kenneth Walker the third. And he was 11th in they were 11th in defending the pass game in the Big Ten. So it's going to be really hard for them defensively to kind of take that step forward, especially with that struggling defense. They're going to have to retool that a little bit. Peyton Thorne will come back as quarterback. He had 27 touchdowns last year. So I think that's going to be a really good addition to keep him on as the quarterback on this offense. So other than replacing that running back, this defense is going to have to step up a little bit, and I think they'll just be fine. These top 3 teams can kind of go anywhere, really. There's no really – I think their ceiling is 1, but, I mean, all 3 of these teams at the top can finish 1, 2, or 3 just because of how evenly leveled I believe they are. So I have to put Michigan State at my 3 because of those road games to Michigan and Penn State.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just feel like Michigan State's going to have a decent show because Michigan seems always at least one home game a year, with the exception of last year. Just it seemed like last year was kind of an anomaly. I think they'll kind of revert to those ways. That's kind of why I have Michigan ahead. And kind of give me an example going to put Michigan into. Again, love Mel Tucker. I think the job he's doing, he got a big fat, got paid, staying at Michigan State, at least for the foreseeable future. And he's going to have some good personnel. Again, he's not going to have Kenneth Walker who will be able to carry the offense, but the offense, I think their defense is still solid. I think their defense is going to still be good. That offense is definitely going to be key to watch. And again, a lot of things you look at, like a lot of those games and bowl games people see as meaningless. A lot of teams kind of see as a set. And you saw some things from Michigan State that you kind of look forward to. You also saw some things from guys that what are those positions going to look like this time up. So it'll be interesting. I like Michigan State. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to finish a little bit 1-ish in conference play. And I think that loss will be to my number 1 team in a second, but I think it's pretty obvious who that is.
All right, and then my number 2, and obviously we'll have the same number 1, but my number 2 obviously is Michigan. Jim Harbaugh, I think, has gotten over the hump finally. I think a lot of people were kind of waiting on him to do it, and he finally has done it at Michigan. He's finally gotten to the college football playoff. He's finally beaten Ohio State. He's won the Big Ten title for the first time since 2004 in the program. I think this team is finally starting to turn the corner that everybody wanted Michigan football to be. So that's a good thing. That's a good plus. And they even bring back J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara. I think that's how you say his last name. But they'll battle. Yeah. and they'll battle out as QB battle for QB1. So it'll be really interesting to see how they battle it out because they were both really good quarterbacks. I really, truly believe that. I think their problem is they're going to have to replace a lot on the defense. And yes, to answer Cody's question, Aiden Hutchinson has left for the NFL. He's no longer with the Michigan program. A lot of defensive, I can never say this dude's last name. David Ojabo. I think that's how you say it. Ojabo, I guess. Yeah.
We'll just call him David.
Yeah, David. So they both have went to the NFL, and they were first-round draft picks. So this defense is really going to have to step up a little bit and find those replacements up front. Secondary, a lot of those guys come back, and it'll be really interesting to see how they advance that offense now that they have a lot of guys returning and coming back. But obviously, my number one is Ohio State. Look, here's the thing. C.J. Stroud's top. We talked about this week. He's easily top like 2 quarterback in the nation behind Bryce Young. And I really think that Ohio State has a potential to be really good. And here's the thing. This is what's going to be really tough. And this is to Cody's point. Notre Dame plays them in week 1. I mean, it's going to be tough, but they have it at Ohio State in the horseshoe. So I think that gives them a little bit more of an advantage. But Notre Dame is going to be a really tough opponent. But looking inside just the conference, I think that it's going to be really hard to stop them. Obviously, we mentioned C.J. Stroud. This is going to be their quarterback. The running back, Trayvon Henderson, comes back. Jackson Smith and Ngaba comes back. I mean, they have a lot of offensive line returning as well. Scoring points is really not going to be the problem for them, but defensively is what's going to be tough, and we'll see how it goes. And they hired Jim Knowles, who was at Oklahoma State last year, to be the defensive coordinator this year for the Buckeyes. So I think that's going to be a really good addition on defense as the coordinator position. So I'm going to have to put Ohio State at 1 because I just believe that they're better than everybody else on that side of the division. And obviously you have Ohio State. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, man, just Jackson Smith and how'd you pronounce it? Jane Smith. And I've heard people pronounce it. It's just one of the things like DJ Uyunglele, like that guy, you know. But I think Jackson Smith is going to be his team. You know, he's a junior. So he's eligible for the draft this year. He's continued his success that he saw in the Rose Bowl. You know, he had one of his his teammates improve their draft stock. Well, against Utah, he had over 300 yards. Dude went off in the Rose Bowl. I mean, that was one of the best games we had all year. So it was really put high expectations on him, and it was interesting to see how he comes out of the gate because he's going to be wide receiver 1. Doesn't matter. Hey, do not underestimate this guy. This guy is on our radar. So, and it's going to be big. It's going to be very important for C.J. Stroud to kind of spread. Because once you start to spread that wealth a little bit, you're going to allow your big-time playmakers more and more opportunity, people involved. And when you get more and more people involved, it means more people that the defense has to hate that problem. The offense becomes simple enough. Eventually, there's going to be someone that's going to get some separation. So it becomes easy at that point. I think C.J. Stroud, in another, I think he's going to have an excellent year. He put up a lot of numbers. He definitely put up some Heisman-worthy numbers. Here, he threw a lot of picks, didn't play as consistent, and they probably threw a little bit too much for him. Didn't a lot of support in the backfield as well. So hopefully they'll be able to kind of spread the wealth. I think overall, this team coming back for Ohio State is going to be very, very dangerous, and we'll find out very, very quickly in the season.
Yeah, absolutely, as they take on Notre Dame week 1. And we won't really talk about them because they're not in a conference, but I think Notre Dame's going to be a really good team too that we could even maybe mention in that final 6 of the college football playoff. They may be one of those first teams out or even one of those teams in. I mean, we'll talk about them when we get to that point on August 25th.
Marcus Freeman is doing a heck of a job, or at least like in their.
Absolutely. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll break down the Western Division of this conference, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back in, Sideline Sports Show. Final segment here on this lovely Thursday, the 40th episode, Tim. I forgot to say what episode this was. This is episode number 40. I mean, that's a lot of episodes. So, we've
Time flies when you're having fun, man.
exactly. So, but as we continue this, I think it's very interesting. Make sure to comment who you think is going to win the Big Ten Conference. And also make sure to go subscribe, like all of our social media platforms as well. Sideline Sports Show. We'll mention that at the end as well. But let's go ahead and break down the Western Division of this conference. And here's the thing. We're going to start at the bottom and go up, Tim, just like we did with the East. If the trend holds an even year, which this is 2022, it's an even year, could be a good one for this team because this team won the Big Ten West Division in 2018 and 2020, but the year before in 19 and in year 21, they had 3-9 records. Can you guess the team, Tim?
I want me to say Wisconsin, but I'm going to go Purdue.
No, Northwestern.
Oh,
Northwestern.
wow. Okay.
Actually, it's an even year, so they could win just based off this trend that they've had. I mean, they won the West Division in 18 and 20, and then in the year of 19 and the year of 21, they went 3-9. So this year, if the consistent theme stays true, they could win. But let me just be real. I'm going to have to put them down at the bottom at my number 7 spot in the Western. Well, there's a lot of teams that could win this division, and Northwestern could be one. But the problem is they only scored 13 points a game on offense and only had 4 yards per play. I mean, that's absolutely just awful on offense. And it doesn't help when you give up 34 points a game just in Big Ten play. So I think it's just going to be really interesting to see how this Northwestern team turns it around. I don't see it this year, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to put them at number 7 for me. So, Tim, go ahead. Who's your number 7?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to go Illinois. I don't like 500, but I don't know, something about that program, man. I don't feel good about them. They kind of blow it the next year and just never really any true consistency with them fighting Illini. And it was kind of crazy. We actually get a rematch. Ben, a rematch.
What's that?
Week 4 for Illini as they. So again, I think the mocks there, which I think that they had a solid. There might be a chance for an upset there. Just saying. But not a big fan of be consistently good. Around 500 like they were last year. So I think that they're going to be at the.
All right, and so my number 6 is actually the Fighting, whatever you want to call them, because I don't want to say they're the Fighting because they have fought. They haven't really fought. I mean, so you really can't, unfortunately, say that they're the Fighting Illini, whatever it's called. Anyway, but the good thing is they did knock off Northwestern, Penn State, and Minnesota last year. But they also lost 4 other games by 1 score. This team is getting better. I just don't think that they're to the standard of, I would call, the top of the conference. They do have Thomas DeVito, the Syracuse transfer quarterback, coming into play under center for them this year. So he'll use his last year eligibility trying to help Illinois try to get back to the top of this Big Ten conference. But I just don't see it this year. Defense wasn't that good. They gave up 21 points a game, which is not that bad. It was pretty good, I mean, last year, and only 5 yards per play. So this defense is going to be the foundation of this team, but this offense has got to pick it up a little bit. And I think they can be good. I just don't think that they're like top 3. I mean, they could maybe move to like 5 on this list, or I would say ceiling's like 4, but I just don't see it this year, unfortunately. So I'm going to put Illinois at 6.
Number 6, Northwestern. Could make a big jump this year. They've got some important games at home. They get Ohio State at home this year. So I think that's something important. But they also got they've got some tough matchups on the road that I am concerned about. I think that they could have but will they? I don't know for sure. Yeah, but so we're kind of safe on a limb. Like I went on a limb last year and I said Iowa was going to win the Big Ten. I'm short. I almost got my wish bin, but didn't quite happen. I think Northwestern. I think they're going to be better this year, but just for safety, I think they're going to be better than. At least I guarantee they're going to be better than Illinois. I can't say Nebraska is going to be much better. I mean, Nebraska, who we'll definitely get to very, very, very soon. I have them on my list. Nebraska would widely considered probably the best 3-9 team. Many close games. I mean, even against Oklahoma, who was a down year, but it was on the road against Oklahoma. They only lost by a touchdown. So they played a lot of close games. So I think Purdue's going to be about usually what they are. Wisconsin, we all know what they bring. Tough defense. They'll run the boat. Again, PJ Fleck and company that we know what they're about. They're going to poise for a decent year. And then we all know Iowa is very tough on. I just don't see them going to be better than those squads right there. So that's why I've got Northwestern right there.
All right. In my number 5 spot, I have the team and the coach who is on the hot seat, probably the most in the Big Ten, and that is Nebraska. Look, Scott Frost, everybody thought he was going to be the next big thing when he came from UCF up to Nebraska, but has yet to do anything. He's 5-29 over his tenure there, and has yet to even have a winning season up there in Nebraska. Look, here's the thing. It's like you mentioned, they had a lot of close games, and like you said, a lot of people said this was the best 3-9 team out there in the in the whole entire country because they played a lot of close games. Here's the thing. They're going to get Mark Whipple, is how you say his last name, as the new offensive coordinator. You'll have Cade Thompson, who comes in as the Texas transfer as quarterback. So he'll be a sophomore this year. So it's going to be a really good offense, and it improves in the quarterback position because Adrian Martinez, I think a lot of people wanted him gone for a while, especially in that Nebraska program. That running back is going to be really interesting because they love to run the football, but now they're getting Cade Thompson, who I think will help in the passing game a little bit. So I think that'll be good for them. But their defense has really just been the strength over the past 2 years. And I think that this team is going to be really good. They got a lot of transfers in to really help rebuild this defense after they lost 2 or 3 guys to the NFL draft. So I think it's going to be a really good team overall, but I just don't think that they're going to be better because they haven't proven it yet. Until they prove it, I can't put them any higher than 5. So give me Nebraska at number 5.
And number 5, I've got Boilermakers. I think they're going to be kind of around the spot where the Fighting Illini were last year, about conference. Just not really a big fan of them. Total an upset at home this year, so I don't know. I just feel like that my spot would probably be where they're going to end up, but I feel most confident in the 5 spot.
All right, my number 4, I have Purdue. And, you mentioned they had a 9-4 record last year, did really well. I mean, it was like their first or its best season since 2003, believe it or not. So that was really good. Defense is going to improve with a new defensive coordinator this year. So it's going to be really interesting to just see how this team finishes out. But you just look back, their quarterback comes back, Adrian O'Connell comes back to be the quarterback for this team, for this offense. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this team plays and how it progresses throughout the year. Can they maintain that 9-4 record they had last year? I want to say no, because it's just going to be really tough for them to produce the same exact thing with a division that's honestly wide open. I mean, they could literally finish, I think in this side of the conference, anybody that I have from like 5, so Nebraska, Purdue, and these other teams that I will mention later, all have a shot to win this side of the division. But I just, in my opinion, I don't think that they are the better team than the teams I have ahead of them. So I have to put Purdue at my number 4 spot.
At number 4, I'm going to go with Minnesota. I'm going to lose the running back Moses Ibrahim. He's gone. I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back. Again, doing really good things up there in Minnesota, but I think they're going to take a step back. I think around the 5-4 mark for them. Again, solid defense. They do almost have to have a solid defense unless you're Ohio State. So you don't, because offense, unless Michigan can run the ball. So no one else really truly can throw the football even forward. There are teams like Maryland and stuff that can throw the ball a little bit, but for them, I don't. Again, quarterback questions for me. Not really sure where. Just kind of uncertainty for me. So that's kind of what I just don't know enough about Minnesota. That's fine.
As my number 3, I feel like we're just swapping. My number 3 is the row your boat gently down the stream Golden Gophers of Minnesota and PJ Fleck. And here's the thing. You mentioned the quarterback questions. Here's the good thing. Kirk, I can never say his last name. I would butcher it if I even said it. No, it's not. It's Sierra Roca. I guess that's how you're going to say Sierra Roca. That's yeah. So I guess that's the best way I'm going to pronounce it. He actually comes back as the offensive coordinator under PJ Fleck. He was there in 2019, comes back this year now under Tanner Morgan, who honestly, during the year of 2019, when he was there at the offensive coordinator, Tanner Morgan threw for 3,500 yards and 30 touchdowns. So I feel like that offense is going to be a lot better with Tanner Morgan still in this system. So I think that's going to take a step forward a little bit in Tanner Morgan's senior year. But defensively, there's only one starter that returns up front on the defensive line. So I think that's going to be a huge, huge problem for them to fill. Other than that, I mean, scoring defense was good. Fourth down plays was good. So I think really this is a good team that just needs a little bit more of a push. And I think PJ Fleck can help them get there along with Tanner Morgan and the new offensive coordinator. So I'm going to have them at my 3 spot.
For number 3, last year, Ben, I picked them to win it. But this year, I think they're going to take a step back. Put Iowa.
Wow. Okay.
I think I'm going to shock you with the as well.
I think you are too. Because I see a theme here, Tim. But we'll let you go ahead and discuss your 3.
Yeah, number 3, Iowa. Again, always question. Like they'll run three times, then the punt, and then play great defense. It's the very old, more like ancient style of playing football. But I think that'll keep them in the top 3. I don't think it'll be enough to kind of get them over the way they play. They only scored 227 points last year. The thing was, when you do that, it kind of evens out, and you're going to win games. So compare that. We scored 227 points. It was in the Big Ten title last year. Ohio State, who scored 418. It's interesting. It's interesting sometimes how sports works, Ben. But you know what? But I don't think I was going to be able to replicate that again. Where they're going to be able to win the West. And number 3.
All right, my number 2, and like I said, I mean, these teams from like 1 all the way to 5 can honestly win this division just because it's so whacked up. But at my number 2, I have the Wisconsin Badgers. And I'll go ahead and reveal my number 1 as well. It's the Iowa Hawkeyes. And so let me explain both of them. Wisconsin, I feel like they only return 8 starters overall, like on the whole team. They only return 8 starters. That's going to be a huge, drastic change for this Badgers offense and defense. And it's going to be hard to reload everybody, especially when they were your main talented players, especially offensive line, defensive line. A lot of secondary players are gone. it's just not going to be good. And then they even have Ohio State as a matchup. They have Michigan State, and they also have to go to Iowa this year. And it's just not fun playing there. We mentioned it. It's one of the loudest stadiums and hardest stadiums to play in. And I just don't see them coming out with a win in that game. And that leads me to the Iowa Hawkeyes, who honestly, it may not look like, you know, they may not be the favorite, I think, going into this year for a lot of people. But for me, I just feel like their offense is so simple and it's so easy to run. And there's times where it works and there's times where it fails completely. I mean, we saw it last year. You even mentioned it. They only scored like 20 something points a game. I mean, it wasn't that good. And the problem is the good thing that helped them last year is they forced 31 turnovers on defense. This defense is really good. I mean, it's going to continue to be really good. The problem is they have to go to Ohio State, Purdue, and Minnesota, but they get to host Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. So I think those are all key opponents that I think that they need to win at home. But Ohio State on the road, I think that's where it gets them right there. But other than that, I think they can win this Big 12 or Big 10 West very good because of the way that their schedule's laid out. So I'm going to go with the Hawkeyes of Iowa. Tim, you're 2 and you're 1, and I feel like I already know where this is going, but just go ahead, Tim. Just go ahead,
Ben.
because this here. Let's go ahead and just record it and just clip it because I already know where this is going. I already do.
I think again they're going to be able to run the ball well. They're going to need to improve. We know this. Again, that was a big black mark last year as a quarterback. Graham Mertz again played well in the COVID year and breathing so good last year. I think he kind of had that game against Notre Dame and then just finished all year. They're going to need him to step up. They're going to need him to reaffirm that quarterback position, and it'll be good enough to get them into the top half of the league. So, and I guess he has been, you're going to look at me and probably some people are going to be like, hey, you're crazy. But you know what? I went on a limb last year. I said the same thing about this team, Nebraska. We're going to know right away because their first game is at Northwestern. And it's actually August 27th. So we're going to know right away how strong this team is here. I get that. I understand that. But Scott Frost, he knows he can't have another 3-9 year. I mean, they get home games against and you get Minnesota. You also get game against Wisconsin. Now that game at Michigan is a game at Iowa, but I think I think they're going to right the ship. And although so close last year, I think they're going to turn it around this year. And heck, I think that game against Michigan at the Big House, I think they actually come away with the victory there. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Nebraska wins the Big 10 West and sets up a date with Ohio State. Call me crazy,
no, you are. I already know that. I mean, look, if anybody's making bold takes, it's Tim. I mean, Tim will make some bold takes here. So, I mean
you can't tell me. You look at this team, they lost so many close games, all of them. They had a really, really good season last year, maybe even be in the race, up there with Iowa, up there with Minnesota. So I think this team is so good quarterback in there. Like you said, that they're doing that. I think they're going to do that this year. I think they're going to find their quarterback. And that first game on August 27th against the Wildcats of Northwestern on the road, I think I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, I said trust me last year in Iowa. I said, and they did. They didn't win the title game, but and I said Georgia will win. So I'm telling you, trust me on this. I think Nebraska is going to win the Big Ten. Let me rephrase that.
Trust the process is what Tim is saying, as the Philadelphia Sixers would try to say for years, and we've seen how well that's worked out. My thing is, all right, we got 2 different championship games. Obviously, we have Ohio State on the East for both of us, but then we have the Iowa Hawkeyes for me, but the Nebraska Cornhuskers for you. have the most wild game, so I'll let you start first, Tim.
Dare I say the guys, right? Dare I say it? Nah, I'm not gonna say it. But
I was going to say,
Ohio
Tim.
State is too strong. I think C.J. Stroud and company are going to be on another level this year, better. And I think Nebraska pulls off a really good season, but I think they'll somewhat close. But I think Ohio State probably wins somewhere about, like, I say 37-20.
Here's all I'm going to say. I'm going to agree with Cody for the first time probably in my whole entire life, because this is very
This ought to
rare.
be good.
Notre Dame knocks Ohio State off week 1, and then they're going to have to play their tails off the rest of the year to keep that college football playoff hopes alive. And you know what? They go all the way the rest of the year undefeated, win the Big Ten, and potentially, not even going to guarantee it, potentially get themselves a playoff seat in the college football playoff. Potentially. Like I said, I'm not going to reveal that because that's down the road, and I haven't even got to who I even want to be in my 4 yet. But I'm just saying they have a chance.
I feel like it's
And
safe at that point. If Ohio State goes 12-1 with on opening week, I think there's no way this committee, especially if they look impressive doing it, maybe we'll be able to keep them out or have any justification for doing so. So,
we'll
kind of cross that road.
Here's the problem. I don't know if they can, though, because you got to think Minnesota had them week 1 last year and held them close. I mean, they really did. I think it was like 38-35 was the final, maybe. Maybe it was 45-38, maybe. I don't know. I have to go back and check that score.
Well, you got to be careful with week 1 games. You'll face a bad team week 1, but you won't know it until midway through the year. It's tough to really judge teams. That's why in MLB season, the first 40 games or so, you cannot judge by the first 40 games because, again, the bad teams, you'll eventually taper off the bad team. So, but again, the first couple weeks of the season, especially if they're playing a team like Ohio ready, but then again, later in the year, they fall off completely. They weren't able to consistently. Week 1, sometimes, and especially when you play these week number 1, just ask DJ, the quarterback for Clemson. I mean, week 1 against Georgia for the rest of the year. I mean, I don't know what was going on. I mean, there's all kind of issues that lasted throughout the year. Week 1 and just didn't get any better. So you got to be careful with judging teams week 1. Sometimes, and then it's like, okay, this team is definitely better, but at that time, Ohio State was just more prepared. Whoever wins the game was just more prepared. Did a better job, basically not letting things get out. Because again, week 1, you don't have a whole lot of knowledge. Especially the knowledge is on Notre Dame's side here. They have a new head coach, and what kind of style he's going to run. You don't know what the type of personnel he's going to run. You know the personnel, but you don't know the style. You don't know the plays. You don't know what he's got. So with Ohio State, you know what they've got. Jackson and Ngaba, I can't say the last name, but you know what I'm talking about. The that set a Rose Bowl record for receiving yards in a game. You know what they are, because there's just more tape on the opponent from last year when they have Notre Dame, where you have some returners, but at the same time it's like you have a new head coach, so you don't they look like this, but will they look like this week 1 with a new head coach in the SEC?
Absolutely.
So
yeah, it will be interesting. We'll get to see that here probably. We're about a month away, Tim. I mean, from college football week 0 starting and kicking off. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all of this plays out, especially later on into the season. And hopefully all the way to the end. Hopefully Nebraska can actually prove me wrong, Tim, like Iowa did last year and Georgia did last year as well. All right, before we go, make sure go check out all of our social media platforms. Like, subscribe, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Make sure to go check it out. Sideline Sports Show, and on Twitter, Sideline SP Show. Make sure to go check it out. And also go check out our friends at section103.com. Use your 10% off code Sideline at checkout, section103.com. All right, Tim, that is episode number 40 in the books. High school football right around the corner. NBA trades are crazy. MLB trade deadlines at the end of this week. It's just going to get crazier from here, Tim. It's just going to get crazier.
You know, at the place I work, I just got the schedule for stuff that's producing games and all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't me or anything. I've done my fair share of it. But Burns High School football, the place I work at, broadcast those games, and I produce for them for before. They're going to have a new broadcaster. I have it is. So I don't know. I saw that on the schedule, and I'm like, holy cow, that's literally going to be this month. Like,
yeah,
4 days, whichever one it is. It's like, dang, it's right around the corner. It's crazy. You know, football that's less than a month away. So looking forward to it. You know, for Friday Night Lights, and we're looking forward to September, bro. I mean, look, we're in the fall. The weather, you know, it's still going to be cooler. It's going to be a little nicer. We're going to have college football. We're going to eventually have NFL. We're going to have high school football. I mean, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We're going to be all football. And there's going to be plenty of talk to get started. So make sure you tune in. Yeah, here on Sideline Sports Show before we get ready and preview every before it happens.
Exactly. I mean, it's going to be packed. I mean, from here all the way to the end of the year, it's going to be a fun, packed show each and every single week. So make sure, like, subscribe, do it all. I mean, just go ahead because it's going to save you much time in the long run. And especially when your team is doing good or is doing bad, we'll talk about it right here on the Sideline Sports Show. So don't miss out. I mean, there's no reason to. And if you're on the podcast or if you're watching now and you're not on the podcast, make sure to go check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I mean, wherever you listen to podcasts, it's there. Trust me. You just got to type in Sideline Sports Show. Maybe on like Spotify, I had to search for it the other day. You maybe got to go to episodes, and then it has all of our episodes right there under episodes. So you can't find it in like the title of the Sideline Sports Show. You got to go to episodes, and it's all right there. Apple Podcasts, I think it's pretty easy to access Sideline Sports Show. But if you're already on the podcast and you're not watching, come hang out with us on Thursday night. We get to interact with you just like we do with majority of our guests that come on. They'll throw a chat down, they'll comment, and we'll bring up their chat. So come hang out with us on the live stream as well, Thursday night, 6:15. So we'll break down the Pac-12 next week, Tim, as USC and UCLA's couple of final years left in the conference, as we'll break down that conference and a little bit more, hopefully because of the MLB trade deadline and NBA. Maybe Kevin Durant goes to Boston. Who knows? We'll talk about it all next week right here on the Sideline Sports Show. Have a great week, and we will see all of you guys right back here next week on the Sideline Sports Show.
Later.